Encircled, outgunned, alone, then he stepped forward. You called for a human. The crimson sun of Crystalis hung low on the jagged horizon, its blood-red light splintering across the towering crystal spires that pierced the heavens like the shattered bones of a forgotten deity, their multifaceted surfaces refracting a kaleidoscope of colors, vibrant purples, fiery oranges, and deep indigos that danced across the barren, windswept plains in an ethereal display, a stark and almost mocking contrast to the devastation that scarred the landscape below. The air was thick with the sharp metallic tang of ionized particles from recent plasma exchanges, mixed with the dusty grit of pulverized crystal that clung to everything, irritating the senses and reminding all who breathed it of the fragility of their existence. Commander Elira Thorne, her golden Aurelian scales scarred and pitted from countless battles waged across the vast, unforgiving expanse of the stars, stood resolute atop a fractured ridge that overlooked the chaotic battlefield. Her energy spear clutched tightly in her clawed grip, its blue core flickering erratically with dwindling power, reserves a silent and poignant testament to the unrelenting toll of this interminable war. The Galactic War, a cataclysmic conflict that had engulfed entire star systems in flames of destruction and despair, had ravaged her proud people, reducing her once mighty battalion of 300 elite warriors, each a paragon of Aurelian strength and valor, trained from birth in the arts of combat and strategy, to a mere 30 survivors, their ornate armor dented, scorched black in places, and barely holding together against the relentless assaults their spirits battered and weary, but unbroken by the endless onslaught of their merciless enemies. Encircled by the vast and formidable Draxar horde, whose numbers seemed infinite and whose brutality knew no bounds, outgunned by their superior firepower that included massive plasma cannons capable of vaporizing entire squads in a single volley, and utterly alone in this remote, forsaken corner of the universe, where reinforcements were but a distant dream, their honor-bound resolve stood as their only shield against an inevitable doom that loomed like a gathering storm on the horizon, dark clouds of fate swirling with the promise of annihilation. Each Aurelian warrior stood tall and defiant, their telepathic hum a subtle psychic vibration that connected their minds in a symphony of shared thoughts and emotions, weaving a defiant chorus of courage, determination, and unbreakable solidarity. Their golden eyes burning with an unyielding pride that refused to dim even in the face of extinction. Yet deep within her core, Elira felt the crushing weight of their dwindling numbers pressing on her heart like a cold, unyielding blade forged in the fires of despair and tempered by the chill of hopelessness. She had sworn an ancient oath to protect Crystalis, the last bastion of her people's hope and heritage, a planet whose intricate crystal veins pulsed with ancient untapped power that hummed faintly beneath the surface, whispering secrets of a lost era when Aurelians ruled the stars, unchallenged their civilization, a beacon of enlightenment and might. But now the Horde's war drums echoed ever closer through the valleys, a relentless, thunderous heartbeat that shook the plains beneath her feet with rhythmic vibrations, carrying the acrid scent of ozone from recent plasma blasts that lingered in the air like a poisonous fog, the fine dust of shattered dreams swirling in eddies around their positions, and the faint coppery tang of spilled blood that stained the ground in dark patches, a grim mosaic of loss and sacrifice. Her mind raced through a myriad of strategies, tight phalanxes to hold defensive lines against the charging masses, bold charges to break through enemy flanks and create openings for retreat or fortified defensive stands in the natural choke points formed by the crystal formations. But deep in her core, she knew the odds were grim, the chances of survival slim as a razor's edge, the future cloaked in shadow and uncertainty that threatened to engulf them all, a weight that pressed upon her iron resolve like an anvil, threatening to shatter even her unyielding spirit forged in the crucible of endless conflict. Then, without warning, a brilliant fireball tore through the crimson sky like a comet of doom, screaming like a wounded beast in its descent, as it hurtled toward the ground with terrifying velocity, crashing into the plains with a deafening roar that reverberated through the air and sent massive crystal shards flying like deadly meteors in a storm of thick smoke, crackling sparks, and utter chaos, the impact shaking the ground like a planetary earthquake that caused fissures to spiderweb across the surface. From the heart of the smoking wreckage, amid the billowing clouds of dust and debris that obscured vision and choked the lungs, emerged Nathan Cole, a human from the distant rugged fringes of known space where survival was a daily grind against hostile environments and alien threats, his lean and wiry frame unarmored and unadorned, save for a worn tactical vest, patched with makeshift repairs from previous skirmishes, his dark brown eyes scanning the battlefield with an unnerving calm that spoke volumes of experience beyond his years. A predator's focused gaze housed in what appeared to be a fragile, vulnerable form. He knelt gracefully amid the rubble, picking up a discarded Draxar claw blade from the dust-strewn ground, its obsidian edge glinting ominously in the fractured light, as he tested its balance and weight with a practiced hand, as if it were nothing more than a mere tool from one of Earth's brutal survival wars, where every moment was a desperate fight for life against overwhelming odds and unforgiving terrains. Elira's golden eyes narrowed in deep suspicion, her telepathic senses extending like invisible tendrils to probe this unexpected stranger's mind, seeking motives and truths hidden beneath the surface, her voice cutting through the tense silence like a war gong forged in the heart of a starfire forge, resonant and commanding. Who dares trespass on our final stand? You are no Aurelian, no ally summoned by the Coalition. Identify yourself before I deem you a threat. Nathan met her piercing gaze without flinching, his posture relaxed yet alert, his tone steady but laced with a faint sarcastic edge that hinted at hidden depths of character defiance forged in adversity, and a spark of dark humor in the face of impending doom. Nathan Cole, Earth Special Forces. You sent a distress call across the void, broadcasting it wide for any who would listen. You called for a human. Well, here I am, ready to tip the scales. His words hung in the air like a challenge wrapped in casual confidence, as if he had walked into far worse situations on countless worlds, and emerged victorious each time, his presence both intriguing and deeply unsettling to the warriors around him. A riddle wrapped in an enigma that disrupted their telepathic harmony with ripples of curiosity and doubt. Inside his mind, Nathan's thoughts churned with vivid, haunting memories of Earth's savage campaigns, dense, steaming jungles burned to ash by relentless orbital strikes that lit the night sky like false dawns, sprawling megacities reduced to smoldering rubble under the boots of alien invasions that spared no one, comrades lost to impossible odds in ambushes and sieges, their faces flashing before him like ghosts from a tormented past, their screams echoing in his subconscious. Yet through it all, humanity had always clawed its way back from the brink, relying on sheer ingenuity, unbridled defiance, and unorthodox tactics that turned scraps of technology and debris into lethal weapons, transforming despair into hard-won victory against foes who vastly outmatched them in strength and resources. He knew the disdain glittering in their golden eyes all too well. He'd faced it on a dozen alien worlds where humans were dismissed as fragile curiosities, weak evolutionary experiments unfit for the brutal realities of the Galactic War. Their reputation a mere shadow in the galaxy's ancient annals of conquest and survival. The Aurelian's telepathic hum buzzed with scorn and disbelief, a psychic wave that washed over him like a cold tide. A human, here on Crystalis, at the edge of oblivion. This must be a cosmic joke or a desperate ploy by a failing coalition grasping at straws in their hour of need. Elira assigned him to the rear guard with a dismissive gesture, her voice as cold as the crystal beneath her feet, sharp with authority and laced with layers of doubt that bordered on contempt. Stay out of our way, human. Our honor demands we face the horde head-on with courage and dignity, as our ancestors did in the legends passed down through generations. Nathan nodded calmly, masking a smirk that tugged at the corners of his mouth, his eyes already tracing the intricate patterns of the pulsing crystal veins in the ground. Raw, untamed energy waiting to be harnessed and weaponized, a canvas ripe for chaos and improvisation, a spark of hope flickering in what seemed like a hopeless fight against insurmountable odds. The distant rumble of Draxar war drums grew louder, a storm gathering on the horizon with ominous intensity, promising a reckoning that would test them all to their limits, the air thickening with tension, swirling dust, and the promise of violence that hung heavy like a shroud, the stars above seeming to watch in silent judgment, as the first echoes of battle drew near the wind, carrying the guttural howls of the approaching enemy, like a dirge foretelling death and destruction. Imagine standing on the edge of annihilation, doubted by all what spark would you ignite to prove your worth. Pause and reflect on a moment when you defied the odds in your own life, pushing past doubt to seize victory. Let that memory fuel you as the story unfolds. In the flickering glow of the tactical cavern carved deep into Crystallis's crystalline core, with precision tools of energy manipulation and sheer willpower, Elira gathered her remaining officers around a central holographic table, their golden scales glinting like fading embers in the dim pulsating light of the displays that cast eerie dancing shadows on the irregular walls etched with ancient Aurelian runes of valor and sacrifice. The cavern's walls shimmered with intricate veins of crystal that pulsed faintly in rhythm with the planet's subterranean heartbeat, as if the world itself was alive and aware of the peril facing its guardians, a constant reminder of the ancient power locked within its depths, waiting to be awakened in times of dire need. Holographic maps flickered and shifted dynamically, displaying the Draxar horde's inexorable advance in real-time 10,000 strong, their six-limbed forms clad in thick, impenetrable obsidian armor, forged from the remnants of conquered worlds, claws like massive scythes that could rend starship hulls with a single savage swipe. Their sheer size and brutality a nightmare made flesh, a force that had crushed entire star systems under their relentless march, leaving only ruins and echoes of screams in their wake. Each warrior towered twice, an Aurelian's height, their small, beady red eyes burning with a primal hunger for conquest and destruction that knew no satiation, their war drums a relentless pulse that vibrated through the cavern walls with increasing ferocity, echoing like the heartbeat of a colossal, unstoppable beast, awakening from slumber, shaking loose fine dust from the ceiling that drifted down like a veil of foreboding. Elira's voice was steady and commanding, cutting through the hum of the holograms as she outlined formations for honorable combat-tight phalanxes to hold the line against the charging hordes, energy spears charged to full capacity to meet the enemy in open battle, where skill and bravery could shine as their ancient code demanded, rooted in centuries of tradition and valor, passed down through oral histories and telepathic legacies. A legacy of warriors who faced death with unyielding pride and refused to yield even when the stars themselves seemed to align against them. Nathan leaned against a crystal wall in the shadows, partially obscured by the dim light sketching guerrilla paths on a scavenged tablet with a stylus that scratched softly against the screen, his fingers moving with quiet precision and speed, mapping out intricate traps and ambushes in the reflective terrain that could exploit the planet's unique features to turn the tide against overwhelming odds. His mind already weaving complex plans from the environment's natural advantages like reflective surfaces for misdirection and volatile crystal nodes for improvised explosives. The Aurelians ignored him completely, their telepathic hum forming a wall of exclusion around their minds, a silent fortress of contempt and superiority that pulsed with disdain, shutting him out as if he were an unwelcome intruder in their sacred space of strategy and camaraderie. Whispers spread through their ranks like a ripple in still water, carried on psychic waves that Nathan could almost feel as a prickling on his skin. What is a human truly a failed experiment from a backwater world on the galaxy's edge? How can this pink-skinned creature without scales, claws, or any natural defenses stand against the might of the horde that has toppled empires? He's a burden, nothing more than a distraction in our final hour, a liability that could doom us all with his fragility. A scarred warrior, his scales etched with the intricate marks of countless battles and hard-won victories across distant star systems, sneered openly at Nathan from across the cavern, his voice dripping with mockery that echoed slightly off the walls, his telepathic presence radiating scorn like a palpable force. Look at him. No claws to rend flesh, no natural armor to deflect blows. He'll break like dry, brittle crystal under the Horde's charge, shattering into dust before he can even raise a weapon, a liability we can't afford in our final hour when every warrior counts. Elira felt a twinge of unease in her core, a subtle ripple in her telepathic senses that she couldn't ignore or dismiss a flicker of doubt, amidst her certainty that challenged her rigid beliefs and the foundations of her leadership. As commander of the Aurelian elite, she had led her people through the Galactic War's fiercest storms, upholding their code of valor with unyielding resolve and pride, her leadership a beacon for her people in the darkest times when hope seemed extinguished. But this Nathan Cole, his presence grated on her like sand in a wound, a stark reminder of the Coalition's desperation in sending such a frail, seemingly insignificant creature to their final stand on this forsaken planet. A move that seemed like a cruel jest from the universe itself, mocking their plight with false hope. She approached him privately, stepping into the shadows where he worked, her golden eyes piercing like focused lasers, her voice sharp as a blade forged in starfire carrying the weight of her authority. "Why are you here, human? Your kind are myths, weak experiments unfit for the wars of gods and titans that rage across the stars, battles that demand strength beyond what your fragile form can offer." Nathan leaned back casually against the cool crystal wall, his voice dripping with sarcasm that served as a shield against their doubt and derision, his eyes meeting hers without wavering. "Myths? We're real enough to answer calls no one else will touch. War doesn't need glory, Commander, just results. And I've delivered those in spades on worlds you'd never survive, places where the air burns your lungs and the ground swallows armies whole." In his mind, fear flickered like a dying star amid the vast darkness, memories of lost comrades on Earth, of campaigns where he'd turned scraps of wreckage into tools of survival, of friends buried under alien skies, in unmarked graves far from home, their sacrifices fueling his resolve to prove them all wrong and emerge victorious. He buried it deep, focusing instead on the crystal terrain's potential reflective surfaces for creating misdirection and illusions that could confuse even the keenest senses, volatile veins for triggering explosions, and traps that could level fields, every spire a potential weapon waiting to be unleashed in creative, devastating ways that could shift the battle's tide from certain defeat to improbable triumph. The Aurelians' disdain grew tangible and oppressive, their telepathic hum shutting him out like an invisible fortress built of psychic barriers, their golden eyes avoiding his as if he were a bad omen or a curse, sent to mock their plight and undermine their resolve. Illyra dismissed his crude map of traps and ambushes with a wave of her claw, her voice resolute and unyielding, her tone brooking no argument or debate. "We fight with honor, not shadows or deceit. Our code is our strength, our tradition, our guide, forged in the fires of our ancestors' victories and tempered by the trials of time." Nathan's resolve hardened, like tempered steel under pressure, his sarcasm masking a fire within that burned with determination he'd prove them wrong, not with empty words or protests, but with blood cunning and actions that spoke louder than any telepathic chorus as he had on Earth against foes who underestimated his kind time, and again their arrogance proving to be their ultimate downfall in the end. Outside the cavern, the ground trembled as Draxar scouts drew closer, their roars splitting the crimson night like thunderclaps from a storm, a prelude to the storm about to break upon them with full fury, the air thick with tension, swirling dust, and the scent of impending bloodshed that carried on the wind like a harbinger, the stars above seeming to hold their breath in anticipation of the clash that would define their fate and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. Feel the sting of silent judgment pressing down. How does it fuel your fire? Share in the comments a time you turned doubt into triumph, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic sci-fi stories that explore the depths of resilience and ingenuity. Dawn broke over Crystalis with a dramatic flare, painting the crystal plains in vivid hues of blood red and fiery orange, the towering spires refracting the light like shattered stars in a dying sky, creating a surreal landscape of breathtaking beauty, intertwined with inherent danger that seemed to pulse with a life of its own, as if the planet was awakening to join the fray. The air was crisp, with the chill of morning carrying the faint, ozone-laced scent of dew evaporating from crystal surfaces, but undercut by the growing rumble of approaching doom. 20 Draxar scouts, each a hulking mass of raw muscle and impenetrable obsidian armor that gleamed menacingly in the light, crashed through the fields with brutal, earth-shaking force, their massive claws rending crystal formations, with every powerful step sending shards flying like shrapnel, their roars shaking the air like a war cry from the void, itself filled with primal rage, insatiable hunger, and the promise of indiscriminate slaughter that echoed across the plains. Elira's warriors formed ranks swiftly, and with disciplined precision, their energy spears blazing with golden light that hummed with charged power, their telepathic hum a unified chant of defiance and solidarity, ready for honorable combat as their code demanded their formations tight and synchronized, like a well-rehearsed dance of war honed over centuries of conflict and training. Nathan slipped into the shadows without orders or permission, ignoring Elira's glare of disapproval that burned like a laser, his lean frame darting between the spires like a ghost in the crimson haze, his movements silent, calculated, and born from years of guerrilla warfare on hostile worlds, his heart pounding with adrenaline, but his mind sharp with unwavering focus. "Fool," she muttered under her breath, her heart pounding with a mix of contempt, turning to confusion, her telepathic senses reeling at his audacity and apparent recklessness that defied all logic and tradition. From a ridge overlooking the field, she watched him move with reluctant fascination, using the reflective surfaces of the crystals to multiply his silhouette into dozens of phantoms weaving through the battlefield like an elusive specter, his presence a trick of light and shadow that baffled the enemy's senses, sowing seeds of discord and hesitation with every deceptive step. Nathan's pulse raced wildly in his chest, fear a familiar companion from Earth's brutal campaigns, where he'd faced death in dense, suffocating jungles choked with vines and hidden threats, and ruined cities, where every corner hid an ambush or sniper, each moment a test of survival against impossible odds that had claimed so many lives. He scavenged a Draxar power cell from a fallen scout's wreckage, its energy unstable and volatile like a caged storm, and combined it with handfuls of crystal dust gathered from the ground to craft a makeshift grenade, his hands working fast and steady despite the chaos guided by memories of jungle traps rigged with vines and explosives and urban ambushes using debris as cover, his fingers deft and sure even as sweat stung his eyes. Tossing the grenade into the scout's midst with pinpoint precision, honed from countless drills, he triggered an explosion that shattered 3 beasts in a blinding flash, their roars drowned by a storm of razor-sharp shards that glittered like vengeful meteors in the morning light, the blast sending cracks racing through nearby spires like lightning bolts, adding to the mayhem and confusion that enveloped the field in dust and debris. Dodging a claw that could split steel with ease, he rolled under a swinging blow that whistled through the air, his scavenged Draxar blaster firing into a vulnerable joint with surgical accuracy. Another fell its armor useless against his precision. Strike its massive body collapsing in a heap of twisted metals and flesh-dark blood, pooling on the crystal ground and reflecting the crimson sky like a macabre mirror. "Humans don't fight," Elira whispered to herself, stunned into silence, her golden eyes wide with disbelief as her telepathic senses struggled to process the chaos unfolding before her, the humans' actions defying all expectations. They hunt like predators, stalking in the dark, turning weakness into strength, vulnerability into advantage. The explosion's echo reverberated through the plains like a thunderclap, sending tremors through the ground that dislodged more shards, the air filled with thick dust and the acrid smell of burned flesh and scorched crystal, a testament to the human's ingenuity and the unexpected shift in momentum. The Aurelians charged forward with renewed vigor, their spears cutting through the confusion Nathan had sown like a blade through fog, their formation bolstered by his unexpected strike that had created openings in the enemy line, their telepathic hum swelling with surprise and grudging admiration that rippled through their minds like a wave, their movements more confident now as they pressed the advantage. He dragged a wounded warrior to safety amid the swirling chaos, improvising a tourniquet from torn armor straps and bandages scavenged from his vest, his hands steady despite the blood and dust covering them, his breath coming in short, controlled gasps as he worked under the pressure of ongoing skirmishes. Alira approached the scene, her voice tight with shock and a hint of awe, her scales glinting in the crimson light as she surveyed the scene of carnage with wide eyes, her mind reeling from what she had witnessed firsthand. How did you survive that madness and turn the tide single-handedly? Nathan wiped sweat from his brow with the back of his hand, his grin faint but defiant, his sarcasm a shield for the exhaustion that threatened to overwhelm him after the adrenaline rush. Call it human magic, intuition, and a bit of chaos. Works every time, even against odds like these that would crush lesser beings. Confusion stirred in her. This weakling had turned a potential rout into a stalemate, surviving, where her best might have fallen, his tactics alien, yet undeniably effective in ways she couldn't deny or replicate with their traditional methods. The surviving scouts fled in disarray, their roars fading into the distance like a retreating storm, leaving a battlefield of smoking crystal craters and fallen foes, the ground littered with shards of obsidian armor, broken claws, and the echoes of a battle that had shifted the balance however briefly in their favor. Nathan stood amid the wreckage, his breath heavy and ragged, his sarcasm a mask for the fear still clawing at his heart from close calls, his mind already turning to the next challenge, his body aching but unbowed in the face of what was to come. But the scanners hummed ominously in the tactical cavern, their holographic displays pulsing with dread and urgency, like a warning siren revealing Overlord Vargan's main force, 10,000 strong and undeterred, looming on the horizon, with unyielding menace their war drums a relentless pulse of impending doom that shook the crystal plains like a heartbeat of death itself. The air heavy with the scent of an impending storm, and more blood to be spilled. The horizon dark with the approaching horde, a tidal wave of destruction drawing ever closer with each passing moment. Picture yourself turning the tide against impossible odds. What hidden strength would you unleash? Take a moment to visualize your own epic stand in the face of overwhelming force, and let it inspire you as the story builds to greater heights. The horde's shadow darkened the plains like a spreading eclipse, their obsidian armor glinting like a vast sea of black stars under the crimson sun, each piece etched with symbols of conquest and fear. Their war drums a thunderous promise of annihilation that vibrated through the ground with increasing intensity, each beat a reminder of the coming slaughter that seemed inevitable and inescapable. The air grew heavier, laden with the musky scent of the Draxar's sweat and the metallic tang of their weapons as their masses advanced in a coordinated wave. Nathan proposed a desperate gambit in the tactical cavern, his voice cutting through the murmurs lure the Draxar into the Whispering Canyon, a narrow defile where the crystal resonances could be amplified to create destruction on a cataclysmic scale, turning the terrain into a weapon of unparalleled power and devastation, exploiting the natural harmonics to trigger chain reactions that could bury thousands. Alira balked at the idea, her honor recoiling at the recklessness that bordered on madness, her scales bristling with indignation and doubt as she paced the cavern floor, her telepathic hum pulsing with concern and resistance that echoed in the minds of her officers. It's suicide! She argued fiercely, her voice sharp and edged with frustration, her golden eyes flashing with defiance, her mind clinging to the code that had guided her people for centuries, through trials and triumphs. Nathan's eyes burned with determination, memories of Earth's lost wars fueling his resolve like an internal fire. Friends sacrificed in burning cities that crumbled under orbital bombardments, worlds reduced to ash and cinders, yet victory clawed from the jaws of despair through sheer ingenuity and unyielding will, their faces etched in his mind like permanent scars that drove him forward. Sacrifice turns the wheel. Commander, he said, his voice low but firm, carrying the weight of countless battles fought and won against all odds, his posture unyielding. Sometimes one life buys millions. It's the math of survival, cold but necessary. He stepped into the open, boldly taunting the advancing Draxar with flares that lit the sky in bursts of light and shouts that echoed defiantly, a lone figure against a tidal wave of claws and fury, his heart pounding with fear. He refused to show his mind, calculating every step and risk, with precision, his body tense with adrenaline pumping through his veins like liquid fire. His every move a calculated risk designed to draw them in. From a stealth pod that landed with a soft thud amid the dust camouflaged by the terrain, Harper Quinn, the explosives expert with a reputation for turning battlefields into infernos, arrived nearby, her sharp eyes scanning the canyon's crystal veins with expert scrutiny, her short black hair damp with sweat from the intense heat of Crystallis's sun that beat down mercilessly, her face set with determination and a hint of excitement. "Nathan's crazy but brilliant always has been," she muttered to herself under her breath, setting seismic charges with deft fingers that moved like a surgeon's, each device humming with volatile energy as she placed them at strategic stress points in the crystal structures to maximize the chain reaction, her movements precise and practiced from years of demolitions on volatile worlds. Nathan ran across the plains with desperate speed, his boots crunching on crystal dust that kicked up in clouds behind him, drawing hundreds of Draxar into the narrow pass. With his provocations, their roars shaking the ground like an earthquake, their claws slashing at the air in frustration as they pursued the lone figure who seemed to mock their might with his evasion. He dodged plasma blasts that scorched the ground and swinging claws that cleaved through spires with ease, his movements fluid and instinctive, guided by years of guerrilla warfare on Earth, where hesitation meant death, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he pushed his body to the limit, his mind sharp with focus amid the pandemonium. Harper triggered the charges at the perfect moment. Her timing impeccable, a chain reaction of explosions turned the canyon into a maelstrom of razor-sharp shards that flew like a blizzard of death, shredding the vanguard in a storm of glittering destruction. The air filled with the screams of the dying and the deafening crack of fracturing crystal that echoed for miles across the plains like a symphony of orchestrated destruction, the ground heaving as if the planet itself was in agony. The Aurelians watched from a distant ridge, their telepathic hum silent in shock and horror, believing Nathan buried in the chaos and rubble that billowed like a mushroom cloud, their hearts heavy with loss and guilt that weighed like anchors on their spirits. Alira's heart clenched tightly in her chest. Had she misjudged this human, sent him to a pointless death for her pride and rigid code, a decision that now haunted her with regret. The dust settled, slowly revealing the devastation in full. The canyon walls scarred and crumbling bodies strewn in twisted, mangled heaps amid pools of blood, the air thick with the scent of destruction and charred remains. Then miraculously from the rubble emerged Nathan, crawling out bloodied but alive, his faint smile defiant despite the cuts and bruises, his sarcasm cutting through the dust and smoke like a blade, his voice hoarse but unyielding as he dusted himself off. "Don't make me do that again. I hate dirt, and this planet has way too much of it for my liking. Feels like it's trying to bury me personally." Alira's contempt cracked, completely replaced by a flicker of respect that warmed her gaze, her golden eyes softening as she saw not weakness, but a fire that burned brighter than her own code of honor, a resilience that defied logic and inspired awe in its raw intensity. The Horde's vanguard lay shattered, their bodies strewn across the canyon, in twisted heaps of broken armor and limbs, their obsidian plates cracked and useless. But the main army still marched forward with grim determination, their numbers undiminished, their war drums louder now, a promise of vengeance that shook the crystal spires with renewed fury, the ground trembling under their approach like a prelude to apocalypse. Harper joined Nathan at the edge of the rubble, her voice sharp but warm with admiration, her hands still smudged with crystal dust and residue from the charges. "Nice stunt, Cole. Ready for round 2. I've got more tricks up my sleeve, and they're bigger than that one, guaranteed to make them regret ever setting foot here." Nathan nodded, his grin, masking the ache in his bones and the fatigue pulling at his muscles, his mind already racing to the next move in this deadly game, the battlefield shifting in their favor as the Alliance strengthened, the air clearing of dust, but thick with possibility and the faint scent of victory on the horizon, a kindled hope amid the chaos that had once seemed insurmountable. Ever thought one person could change everything? Reflect on a time someone's sacrifice inspired you to keep fighting, to push beyond the impossible, and share how it shaped you in the comments below. In the Tactical Cavern, Nathan activated a simulation screen with a flick of his hand, the holographic interface springing to life with vibrant lines of data, mapping crystal resonance waves to turn Crystalis itself into a weapon of unparalleled destruction and ingenuity, a masterpiece of tactical improvisation that could redefine the battle and perhaps the war. Lines of energy pulsed across the hologram in intricate patterns, showing how a single, well-placed explosion could trigger a cascade of devastation, collapsing entire fields of spires like dominoes in a cosmic game of destruction, each collapse amplifying the chaos and turning the planet's terrain against the enemy in ways that exploited every fracture and vein. The Aurelians fell silent, their telepathic hum shifting from scorn to curiosity, their golden eyes locked on the human with newfound interest, their scales glinting in the dim light as they leaned in closer, intrigued by the display of ingenuity and audacity that challenged their worldview. Reese Malloy, the master sniper with a kill count that spanned multiple campaigns, landed with Harper in a secondary pod, his calm demeanor mirroring Nathan's unflappable confidence, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon through his visor with predatory focus, his rifle slung over his shoulder with ease, a tool of precision in his steady, calloused hands. "Time to hunt," he said in a low, gravelly voice, unpacking a sleek rifle with multiple scopes and attachments, its design alien yet precise, calibrated for the planet's unique atmosphere, light refraction, and wind patterns, its barrel glinting with the promise of deadly accuracy from distances that seemed impossible. Harper grinned widely, assembling a device to scramble Draxar communications with components pulled from her pack. Her fingers dancing over circuits with practiced ease, the device whirring to life as it began to emit disruptive signals that would sow chaos in enemy ranks. "Let's make them scream static," she said, her voice edged with mischief and a thrill for disruption, her eyes gleaming with the excitement of turning tech against the tide. Elira watched the three humans, small, unassuming in stature, yet radiating a confidence that unnerved her deeply. Their presence a stark contrast to the towering Aurelians and their rigid, honor-bound ways of warfare. Their movements fluid, purposeful, and efficient, like a well-oiled machine. Nathan addressed the coalition gathered around the hologram, his voice steady, despite the distant rumble of war drums that shook the cavern walls with ominous vibrations. "The Draxar are wolves, pack animals relying on numbers and coordination. Break their pack, you break their army. Kill their leaders to sow doubt, disrupt their signals to create paranoia, make them fear shadows and illusions that lurk in every corner." Reese took a high ridge position overlooking the plains, his rifle whispering death from afar, dropping scouts from impossible distances with shots that seemed to defy physics and gravity. Each kill precise and silent, sending ripples of confusion through the enemy ranks like stones thrown into a pond, their cohesion unraveling thread by thread. Harper's devices turned Draxar comms into a cacophony of noise and static sewing confusion among their ranks that caused packs to turn on each other in paranoia and disarray, their roars turning to panicked screams as they lashed out blindly at perceived threats. An Aurelian warrior, once scornful and dismissive with his sneers, murmured in awe as he witnessed the unfolding chaos. "They fight like spirits, not soldiers weaving through the battlefield, like ghosts from our ancient legends, untouchable and relentless in their pursuit of victory." Elira's voice was soft, almost reverent, her telepathic hum resonating with newfound awe that spread through the group. "They don't fight like us. They redefine war, turning the planet itself against the enemy, using every element, light, sound, terrain, to their advantage, crafting victory from chaos in ways we never imagined." The humans moved as one cohesive unit, their tactics alien, yet mesmerizing, a symphony of chaos and precision that captivated the Aurelians and shifted their perspectives fundamentally, their telepathic hum harmonizing with a new respect that bridged the gap between species. The telepathic hum shifted again, curiosity turning to awe, a fragile alliance forming as hope flickered in their golden eyes like a flame kindled by the humans' unyielding resolve and creativity, a spark that could ignite a new era of cooperation and survival. The ground shook as the main Draxar force approached, their obsidian armor glinting like a sea of death under the sun. But the humans' calm infected the coalition like a virus of confidence, forging a bond stronger than the crystal spires that surrounded them, the air buzzing with anticipation and the promise of victory. The stars above bearing witness to a turning point in the war that could reshape the galaxy's future and redefine what it meant to be a warrior. What's it like to see someone redefine what's possible? Pause and think about a moment when you witnessed unexpected greatness that changed your perspective, and let it resonate as we dive deeper into the climax. Nathan gathered the coalition in the cavern once more, his voice steady and commanding, despite the relentless rumble of Draxar war drums shaking the walls, like a giant's footsteps echoing through the stone, the sound growing louder with each moment, a harbinger of slaughter that loomed ever closer, building tension like a coiled spring. We don't fight their army, we hunt their confidence, kill their leaders to erode morale, disrupt their formations to create openings, make them fear what they can't see or understand, turning their strength into a weakness. Reese positioned himself on a crystal ridge high above the fray, his rifle targeting pack leaders' ornate shoulder guards that denoted rank. Each shot a silent promise of chaos delivered with unerring accuracy, his calm eyes tracking targets through swirling dust and crimson light with the focus of a hawk, his movements precise and deliberate, his breath steady as he fired round after round. Harper's seismic charges turned the plains into a labyrinth of death and deception, channeling Draxar units into kill zones where crystal shards became deadly shrapnel that tore through armor, her devices weaving a crystalline fog that reflected false images of enemies and allies alike, causing hallucinated attacks and panic that fractured their ranks like glass under pressure. Nathan moved like a ghost through the mist, using scavenged Draxar weapons to strike and vanish into the shadows, his sarcasm a mask for the fear gnawing at his core, memories of Earth's wars where one mistake meant death for entire squads in ambushes or collapses, his hands trembling slightly as he reloaded under cover, his mind racing with contingencies and backup plans, his heart heavy with the weight of responsibility for those now relying on him. In 20 intense minutes, they felled 48 commanders, their ornate armor shattered by Reese's precision shots that pierced from afar, their communications scrambled by Harper's tech into useless noise and feedback loops, their formations broken by Nathan's guerrilla strikes that struck like lightning from the shadows, each attack a calculated blow to the Horde's morale that left them reeling. The Horde fractured completely, 10,000 warriors reduced to scattered packs, milling in confusion, firing at illusions in the crystalline fog that danced mockingly, their roars turning to screams of panic as they turned on each other in utter disarray and paranoia, their cohesion shattered, like the spires around them, into irreparable pieces. Overlord Vargan, a towering Draxar clad in armor forged from the hulls of captured starships, etched with trophies of his conquests, roared from his command spire with fury, his complacency shattered like brittle bone, his red eyes blazing with rage, and a growing fear that twisted his features, his voice trembling with desperation, as he sensed his army unraveling before his eyes. Where are they? How many shadows haunt us in this cursed place? Striking without form, a subordinate trembled before him, his voice breaking with terror and awe. They're demons, my lord, everywhere invisible and relentless, striking from nowhere and vanishing like smoke. Nathan, overhearing via a hacked comm device patched into his earpiece, smirked in the shadows, his voice low and sarcastic, laced with defiance that bolstered his own spirits. Just 3 humans, mate. You're welcome for the nightmare we've crafted for you sweet dreams. Alira fought beside them on the front lines, her enhanced spear cutting through armor like paper with glowing energy, her honor bending under the weight of human tactics that challenged everything she knew about warfare, her movements fluid, but her mind in turmoil as she adapted on the fly. This isn't warfare, she gasped, dodging a claw that whistled through the air with lethal speed as Nathan pulled her behind a crystal wall for cover, his movements swift despite the blood on his armor from minor wounds sustained in close quarters, his eyes sharp with focus amid the bedlam. His eyes glinted sharp as a blade in the fractured light, his voice steady and reassuring. It's survival. Humans don't play by your rules, we make our own, and we win by any means necessary no matter the cost. The Horde's cohesion collapsed entirely. Warriors fled in disarray across the plains. Some fought each other in panic-induced frenzy, their roars drowned by the hum of crystal traps, activating one after another in a chain of destruction. The battlefield, a symphony of chaos orchestrated by three humans who had turned the tide from defeat to dominance. Vargan's voice boomed across the field, desperate now, with a hint of pleading. Find them, crush these spirits before they consume us all, before they devour our empire. But the humans were shadows untouchable and elusive, turning the Draxar's strength into chaos, their own numbers, a liability in the maze of death they had created with cunning and tech. Nathan handed Alira a small device, its surface humming with advanced energy, that felt warm to the touch, its design sleek and alien with glowing runes. Stealth generator, he said, his voice firm and instructive. Get to Vargan. End this once and for all, strike true. Elira nodded, her golden eyes meeting his with a depth of emotion, respect replacing contempt completely, a bond forged in the heat of battle that transcended species. She activated the device, her form shimmering into near invisibility like a mirage, and slipped toward the command spire with silent grace, her heart pounding with a mix of honor and human cunning, the battlefield a testament to their evolving alliance and the power of adaptation. The air filled with the sounds of victory emerging from chaos like a phoenix rising. Ever seen chaos turn to victory through sheer cunning? Reflect on a time when strategy outshone brute strength in your own battles and how it led to triumph against the odds. The crystal plains lay silent at last, a profound hush falling over the landscape littered with Draxar corpses in grotesque poses, their obsidian armor glinting like fallen stars under the crimson sun, their claws stilled forever in positions of final agony and defeat, a testament to the impossible victory achieved against overwhelming odds that had seemed destined for tragedy. The air was still heavy with the sense of battle, burned crystal, spilled blood, and the faint ozone of energy discharges, but now carried a note of finality. Elira emerged from the command spire, her spear dripping with Vargan's dark, viscous blood that steamed slightly in the air, her golden scales catching the light as she walked the battlefield with a new purpose, her movements steady, but her mind reeling from what she had done in the shadows. She had struck swiftly and decisively, using Nathan's stealth device to bypass the guards with ghostly silence, ending the warlord with a single dishonorable blow to his unarmored back. A human tactic that saved millions of lives across the galaxy. A choice that would haunt her dreams, yet filled her with awe at its effectiveness and the lives it preserved. A shift in her understanding of war, from rigid honor to pragmatic survival. Not a single human had fallen in the fray, a miracle amid the carnage that spoke to their skill resilience and the unbreakable bond they shared as a team. The coalition gathered around her, their telepathic hum a reverent hymn of gratitude and wonder, weaving legends into the ether that would spread across stars. Three shadows wielding the weapons of intelligence and guile shattered the galaxy's nightmare and rewrote the rules of engagement. The crystal spires stood as silent witnesses, their surfaces ready to bear the tale in stone. Humans, the weakest species, by physical measure, now the most feared for their minds, their names etched into the galaxy's heart, a story to be told for generations across distant worlds, a warning to all who would challenge them, a beacon of hope for the oppressed and downtrodden. Nathan gathered his gear near his crashed ship, his movements quiet and purposeful, as he checked each item, his armor scratched and dented, but unbroken, his body aching from the day's trials and close calls that had tested his limits, his mind heavy with the weight of survival and the ghosts of past battles that lingered like shadows. Elira approached him slowly, her voice soft and stripped of its former edge, filled with genuine curiosity and respect that shone in her eyes. What are you truly? No warrior fights like this, turning enemies into ghosts of themselves, with mind and trickery reshaping the battlefield with thought alone. Nathan turned to face her, his predator's smile warm, now almost human in its vulnerability. his dark eyes reflecting the crimson sun setting on the horizon, casting long shadows across the plains that stretched into infinity. I'm just a human commander, and I make predators dream nightmares they can't wake from. It's our way born from necessity. Reese and Harper joined him at the ship, their calm confidence a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit and resilience, their presence a quiet strength that had carried them through. Reese checked his rifle meticulously, cleaning the barrel with care, his voice low and steady. Job's done. Time to move to the next hellhole in this galaxy. There's always another fight waiting. Harper dusted her hands off her grin, sharp as ever, her eyes sparkling with mischief and satisfaction. Next time, I want bigger explosions. These were too tame for my taste, but effective nonetheless left quite the impression, didn't they? From orbit surviving. Draxar transmissions crackled across the void in panicked bursts, warning their kin with fear and desperation that echoed through comm channels. Avoid Crystallis at all costs. The humans are cursed spirits, invisible and merciless, weaving death from shadows and light turning our might against us. Nathan chuckled softly as he boarded a rescue ship with his team, his sarcasm a final shield against the weight of the day and the scars it left his heart lighter with the knowledge of their victory and its ripple effects. Fear's the best weapon. Let it spread through the stars like a plague, keeping them at bay and buying time for peace. Elira watched him go from the ridge, her heart stirred by respect and something deeper, a recognition that humanity's strength lay not in muscle or weapons, but in minds that turned obstacles into tools, enemies into prey, and never bowed to the rules of the strong, a profound lesson in adaptability. The Galactic War had changed forever. Humans were no longer myths or curiosities dismissed lightly, but legends carved into the galaxy's soul. Their tale a warning to all who underestimated them, a beacon of hope for the oppressed, and a reminder of potential unlocked through ingenuity, defiance, and the will to endure. The real danger was a mind that saw every weakness as an opportunity, every battlefield as a canvas for creation, and every rule as a chain to be broken. A lesson etched in the echoes of Crystallis' stone, resounding through time and space. A testament to the power of the underestimated and the triumph of the human spirit. What did Nathan's story ignite in you? Hit like if you felt the thrill of humanity's defiance. Subscribe for more epic sci-fi tales that delve into the unknown, and comment your favorite moment. Let's carve our own legend together in the comments.